you can't get your tractor into the vineyards to actually be able to protect the vines. So, and then the grass grows as well. So it's been all go. But now the sun's out. It was out. It's lovely and windy. We had 60-kilometre-an-hour winds this morning. They've died down slightly. It's probably about 40 kilometres now, and that's great. That's just, it's dried. All the leaves are all dry. Even the soil's drying out as well, so we can get the tractors back in tomorrow as well. So it's looking much better than it was this time last week, definitely.
How about you, Jen? You've had heaps of rain have you had more rain than normal this year, or?
Yeah, so we've had nearly as much rain this year as we did last year for the whole year. So last year we had 350 mils for the whole year, which is not a lot of rain. We're in severe drought. That's about half our annual rainfall. And this year we've had 305 mils. But for us, a bit like you, Katie, the rain hasn't come at the right time. We got 100 mils in the middle of harvest, so obviously that's not ideal. And then in the second half of harvest we just got several rain events that just kept coming and coming and coming, and so now that harvest is over, it's probably going to stop raining.
Because at the moment in my vineyard it's like flowering is just happening in my vineyard. I imagine, I don't know, whereabouts are you in yours, Jen? What's happening? You're past flowering, I know that.
We're definitely past flowering or before the next flowering. So we've completed our harvest, and we're waiting for our leaves to drop before we can start pruning. So it's yeah, in the vineyard it's a quiet time right now. So we're doing a fair bit of repairs and maintenance to our trellis system. You know, we're doing a fair bit of tidying up, doing lots of mowing and everything prior to winter, and waiting to start pruning. So I'm hoping that we can start pruning in a couple of weeks. But yeah, at the moment it's a little bit quiet, which is good because it's pretty busy in the winery. There's been heaps of bottlings to do because there's some thirsty angels out there, which is excellent. So that's been keeping me pretty busy. But Claude, you're already pruning, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been pruning for I had to escape the children. So I've been pruning for about 3 weeks, but only a few days here and there because of aforementioned children. But this week is my first sort of full week of pruning. So yeah, so I'll be going back out after this. So thank you for this Zoom call because it means that I can avoid the frost this morning. So yeah, so we're pruning, and we've actually, it's funny, I was thinking when you were saying about the rain you had, Jen, during harvest, you need us Kiwis because we're good at that. Like rain during harvest, that's what we know. But not this year. It's been really dry. I don't reckon we might have had 80 mil of rain this year, which is highly unusual for us. So it's really dry. It was really wet in the first half of the season, and then yeah, been really dry since. So it's odd climate, you know.
Claudia, what would you say, just for those New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc lovers, as well as Australian, the breadth that Jen offers and all of Katie's wines, but just picking up on what you last said in terms of whether it rained during harvest. It was the last vintage, the 2020, so you would have picked maybe in March or something, because your southern hemisphere, your harvest is earlier in the year, and then Katie's harvest is later in the year. Was it a good vintage? Like, do angels have something to look forward to? And Jen as well, let us know. Yeah.
2020 was amazing. We had incredible weather. It wasn't too hot. It was a really nice summer, but it wasn't too hot. And sometimes when you get those really hot summers, it kind of blows the flavour out of the Sauvignon a bit. Whereas we had really beautiful weather, not too hot, and also not wet at all. So we had no disease problems to worry about. But obviously, so the fruit's looking really good, but obviously getting it into the winery was reasonably stressful.
Lockdown,
yeah. So lockdown got announced just as Marlborough was starting the main Sauvignon harvest. So all the Pinot Noir was in, so that was fine. But getting the Sauvignon in under it was very stringent, and we were quite worried that if everyone in the industry didn't do the right thing, that we would have been shut down. So we had a very stressful few weeks, but what's in the tank? Bill's blending at the moment. And it's looking really good. So that's good. So we'll forget about all the stress and we'll just enjoy like the wine we're getting now.
And Jen, sorry, Eamon, it's just popping out these questions, but Jen, what was it like for Oz?
Well, for me personally, it was a really challenging vintage. So I'm sure you guys can remember back in late December, early January, we had the terrible bushfires in Australia, and they were particularly close to our region. And so we suffered an incredible amount of smoke-affected fruit. And we had to make some really, really difficult decisions based on a lot of pre-harvest sampling and pre-harvest testing. And we rejected over 70% of our normal intake due to smoke taint. So that's a really, really difficult decision. And when you're talking to your growers who you've been working with for 20 plus years and having to reject their fruit, it's just a horrible thing to have to do.
Can I just ask you something there, Jen? Can you actually smell the smoke on the grapes, or how do you know that it's going to be sort of tainted and you're going to reject it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of research in Australia from, with universities who are putting like these smoke detectors out in areas where there's bushfires. And so they're telling us a reading of smoke units in the atmosphere, which can relate back to potential taint. But then prior to harvest, we get samples and we do micro ferments. So we do little 2 to 4 kilo ferments. So wow. I did 69 micro ferments this year before I'd even started harvest. And then we send those results of those, we send those wines away for analysis and we get those results. Then we also taste those micro ferments and we make a decision based on the results and also the taste. And yeah, you can smell it, you can taste it. And there's the thing about smoke taint is there's very little you can do in the vineyard or the winery to mitigate it, so I mean, you're talking about having mildew as a result of the rain, you're hopeful that you're able to apply a spray application to help mitigate that risk. There's just absolutely nothing you can do with bushfires, so that was pretty difficult, and as a result of having all of that fruit rejected, then we had to go and try and source fruit from other regions. And so, I mean, that was one of the really wonderful things about the harvest was, utilising all of our friends and colleagues in the industry and people being willing to help. And we were able to get fruit from Western Victoria, which hadn't been affected by the bushfires, and actually bring a lot of fruit in and actually make some great wine from other areas. But it was quite funny. I mean, I'm pretty sure this can only happen in Australia. We had one grower in Bendigo, which is in sort of central Western Victoria, who rang me up and he said, Jen, I'm not going to be able to deliver the harvest. And I said, why? And he said, I've just had my whole vineyard decimated by kangaroos. So I think that definitely can only happen in Oz.
It wouldn't happen in Toosday.
No. So, anyway, I think the thing is in any vintage, you always know you've got some secret gems lying in the cellar, and it's just a matter of when you find them. So that's what from such a challenging vintage, I think there's some pretty good results for us down the track.
Cool.
So one of the things I would like to share with all of everyone listening is, I guess, the special friendship that I have with these two ladies and why we wanted to be here together. So I think, one of the things that happens when you're a naked winemaker that you don't know when you're going to sign up is that you're going to meet this amazing community of people. And that's not just the winemakers, that's also the angels and all of the naked staff. And it is like a little family. And when we're going on tour together, it's like a crazy big family. but it's pretty amazing to have these friendships with people. And, you know, like Darren and Alistair, my favourite Scottish angels, you know, have become great friends of mine and actually got married at my winery on the bridge, which was pretty amazing. So, yeah, I think...
Don't they have something else on them, Jen, as well, that makes them think of you?
Yes, they do. They have an amazing tattoo of my rocket like a redhead lady on each of their legs as a symbol of their love and that day. So it's pretty crazy. So it's a tat that looks just like that.
How far will the angels go for Jen Pfeiffer? It's fantastic.
Yeah. So someone beat that out there. Come on.
Yeah.
But,
I love
anyway,
how we first, like my first memories of you guys, because I hadn't met, you know, you guys before. And Jen and I first met, so Bill is obviously Australian, and I spent like my late teens and most of my 20s in Australia. So I have like Australia has a special place in my heart. And I still sort of miss it a bit. And after a London tasting, the double header London tastings are always so exhausting, and like get on the bus and you jet lag. And then Jen sat down beside me, hadn't met her before, and she was like, oh, I've got some like Rutherglen muscat in my bag. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. And she's like, should we have it? And I was like, yeah. So we just like nicked Rutherglen muscat out of a bottle. Bit embarrassing. So that was my first memory of Jen. And then my first memory of Katie was us discussing the trials of curly hair and comparing hair products, which I actually still use some of Katie's preferred hair products. So thank you, darling.
I remember my first memory of you, Claudia. It wasn't actually when I saw you. It was when angels kept coming up to me at the end of the tasting going, you know, your Sauvignon Blanc is the best wine in the tasting. And I didn't actually have Sauvignon Blanc on my table. And then I realized there was actually, people were confusing me with Claudia. That was my first memories of you, Claudia, before I even met you. And then I thought, I better go and check out this girl that's like making wonderful Sauvignon Blanc, but that looks like me. And Jen, again, it's a bus story. I remember you. How could I forget you? I remember you. Basically, I'm quite quiet. I think I'm the quiet one on the bus. It's my downtime when I just like to sit by myself, put my headphones on and just sort of relax and sort of save myself up for the tastings. But no, Jane came and sat down next to me, and I remember that very first time. It's the first time I'd ever done one of the tastings, and Jen was probably the first person who actually sat down with me on the bus, and she became my bus buddy, my best bus buddy. And right from that very first moment, we just hit it off. You know, there was just, sometimes there's just that magical moment, and we had it.
Nice.
I know, it's pretty cool.
And guys, I'll jump in there and just check with you guys. What are you drinking? Coffee is allowed, but lots of people on tonight will hopefully have one of your wines. So you guys, never too early, Jen. That's the spirit. And yeah, let us know what you're drinking, and maybe a few people watching might be drinking the same thing, or just give us a flavor of like what is unique about your wines or your styles, and maybe we can find that in our own glasses.
Okay.
I'm afraid I'm just drinking water because it's like 7 Sorry.
What time is it, Claudia?
It's not bad. It's 7:15 in the morning, whereas it's 5:15 for Jen. So you know, but I'm going pruning after this, so I need to like keep a straight head. But I have got a bottle of our anniversary wine, which makes me so happy. So yeah, if anyone's drinking that. So look, have you guys seen this, Jen and Katie?
Tell us about it.
So the picture on the label was actually drawn by Sylvia, our middle child, years ago, and Bill thought, oh, that would make a good wine label one day. So we took a photo of it. I had no idea. And then when we were doing the anniversary wine, he was like, oh, I know what we're going to do. And he came out with this. So
you know what the drawing is?
Oh, it's just like
expression.
Abstract.
Yeah, it's like 4-year-old drawing, Katie.
Lovely, I love it.
But this wine, like it's our 10 years naked, but the reason we did it was we've got a grower who we really love and is really important to us. And in 2017, that was a really tough vintage for us. And you talking about having to reject fruit, Katie, Jen, sorry, it's awful. It's awful. And we had to reject his fruit in 2017. It was rotten. And he knew that, and they were really good about it. But it was very stressful. Anyway, next couple of years, totally changed his viticulture, did an amazing job. And in 2019, because we ferment all our growers separately, and this parcel just looked so good. And we were just so happy after like the horror of the previous years. So so we asked if we could make an anniversary wine, and luckily, thank you guys, you said yes. And so it's a really special wine for us because of what's in the bottle and where it comes from and sort of the story behind it, all the awfulness, and then joy.
So I know the question is, what are we drinking? So very quickly, I'm drinking the 2018 Rebel Cabernet, which is a lovely rich Cabernet from down under with lots of blackberry flavors, and it's an awesome heart starter at 5 a.m. I definitely can tell you that. But just wanting to follow up what Claude said. So you've just made your 10-year anniversary wine for Naked. So when did you join Naked in 2008?
2010 was the first vintage. So 2019 was the 10th. Yeah.
So how did you join Naked? How did you find out about Naked? What happened?
Bill replied to a press release, and I was Ted was like 2.5, Sylvia was just born. Actually, I think I was still pregnant with her. And he replied to a press release, and I thought it all sounded like some weird scam. And he was like, oh yeah, these people are gonna give us money, and then we can make the wine we want. And I was like, yeah. I'm just gonna go back to the baby. But then it all happened. So we made 2 wines. We made our Yellow Cat and our Sylvia that year. And the reason it's Sylvia is I went out to look at some fruit with a girlfriend of mine who worked for a corporate. They had some extra fruit, and so we left Sylvia, who was like a month old, in like a baby seat in her ute at the end. Sylvia was asleep. She was a great baby. At the end of the row, and then we were walking up and down the rows tasting the fruit, and it was fantastic fruit. But the whole time I was like, oh my goodness, if her corporate overlords catch her with a sleeping baby in her ute on the corporate vineyard, we are dead. But luckily it didn't. So that was how we started. How about you, Jen?
Well, just before you go, move on from that, it was before, I think, Eamon, it was before both of our time, but the guys, the founders, the original founders like Rowan and Joe Parker and Tim Hales, they talk about the first time having backed this Kiwi wine, and then a container was due to show up, and they had no idea, they hadn't even tasted before, and they with bated breath opened the bottle, poured a glass, going, did we just throw this up the dunny, down the dunny? And it was just it was the original aim, and what we call high five moments, where everyone just jaw dropped, and it was a monumentous moment, and they recall it. I think Rowan, when he was leaving, mentioned that moment in his leaving speech. So that was a win for everybody, and Angels to date. Yeah.
They had never tasted a wine that Bill had made, and they just gave us money.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted Jen then. Yeah.
Well, I joined Naked in 2012. It was around the time where Naked was expanding into Australia and also the States. And I remember my good friend, Sam Plunkett, gave a recommendation that I might be a good fit for Naked. And Eamon, you actually came to the winery with Dom and David Parker, who was the wine buyer for Oz at the time, or wine director for Oz at the time. And it was the middle of harvest, and I had my Sunday bests on, I think ripped pants and like a really dirty old shirt, and no doubt the hat. I think my dad was like saying, you really should make a bit more of an effort with these business meetings. And I'm just like, piss off, Dad. Anyway, so then the naked trio turned up and everyone was wearing shorts, T-shirts and thongs. And I thought this might go all right. And I remember
everyone, not
not
underpants. Yeah.
Actually, let's just be clear.
Well, it wasn't that revealing the meeting.
Sorry, a bit of a culture difference. Eamon in his thong, oh yeah. Anyway, sorry to make you blush, Eamon.
Delighting in here, it's just terrible. Yeah.
We had a chat about naked, and I think the same thing. It's hard to believe when it's first pitched to you that after battling in the more traditional environments where you're working with supermarkets or trying to get into supermarkets who have that really big business mentality, and I think the difference between Naked being a startup company and having their roots as such a small business, we really connect with small independent winemakers because it's the same ethos, it's the same values. And I think that is really what makes the Naked relationship so different and so amazing, because you actually sort of have the same mindset. And once I got on my Naked Express and met my besties, and the rest is history. And it's been like an absolutely amazing ride and far exceeded any of my expectations from that day of thong wearing. What about you, Katie? You have a very dramatic story.
I do. And I think I'll put it into a nutshell tonight because we did go into it in some detail last week. But I met Naked in quite unfortunate circumstances when we'd just been vandalised at the winery and we'd actually lost all of our white wine. And I remember Eamon sent me an email and said, I think we can help you, Katie. And I was like, I don't think you can, Eamon. We haven't got any wine. And I just left it. And Eamon came back like the following week and said, he actually gave me a ring and said, look, Katie, I don't think you quite understand how Naked works. And I must admit, at that time, like you, Jen, I just thought, this is too good to be true. It's like, he said to me, we're going to help you. We're going to get you back on your feet. And all these angels are waiting to help you. So we came up with a rescue case to put on the marketplace, and it sold out so quickly with all the support of the angels. And I know Eamon said to me, at the time, if you can just imagine, I don't know, it's probably never happened to either of you, and I really don't ever wish that upon anybody, but when you go to taste your wine and the vat is completely empty, it's just unbelievable. It's just totally, you can't explain that feeling. So with the support of Naked and all the angels, it was just for us, we just couldn't believe it. It was just totally, I remember looking at those sales going through for the rescue case on the marketplace, and it was just going up and up in seconds. It was just ticking away, and in the end we sold, I don't know, over 3,000 cases. So they really, really helped. Just in terrible times, Naked and all those angels just came to us, and it was all the support we got, which is all the messages of support, and we still get them from the angels. It was just absolutely incredible. It's a community that I think doesn't really exist anywhere else, a support community for us as well. And it was just, we will forever be indebted to what they did and what Naked and all the angels are still helping us to do. So it was a journey. It was an adventure, I think.
I think I can say on behalf of all the angels watching tonight, I think it's come full circle, and it's a weird time at the moment, but definitely from all three of you, all your wines are helping us get through it as well. So I think it's come full circle that way.
So Claude, do you actually like pruning?
I love pruning. It's my favorite vineyard job because you're like shaping the vines. You're like, it's like you're in ultimate control. It's really, I love pruning. So, and also at the moment, because it's like it's not raining, it's beautiful. Like we've got this beautiful north facing slope, and I know like north facing slopes are amazing for the canopy to catch the sunlight and rah. But the best bit is that I'm pruning in sun all day, so it's gorgeous. So you know, I love pruning. So I'm going hard out while it's sunny. It's supposed to maybe rain next week, so then I'll do all my office jobs and all that other stuff I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, at the moment, just pruning, loving it. And Bill's actually going to start up pruning. He's a bit busy blending at the moment, but then he's going to come out and help.
Oh, winemakers pruning, very dodgy.
Yeah. Don't ask me about pruning. I'm not allowed to prune.
Aren't you?
So is pruning your favourite job, Claude, in the vineyard?
Oh yeah, pruning's definitely my favourite job. What's your favourite job?
What's your least favourite job?
Oh, in the vineyard, it's desuckering, shoot bashing, like taking the water shoots off the trunk of the vine, because you're just bending down the whole time. It's awful, and it's really boring. Like there's nothing to think about. What about you? What is your favourite and least favourite?
Well, definitely my favourite job's tasting. Absolutely, you know.
I'm with you on that one, Jen, as well. Definitely.
Yeah, like hello, tasting and blending is the best job by far. I love that, but I mean, I love vintage. I love everything at vintage. You know, I even like all the cleaning all the tanks and cleaning all the equipment. And I love the adrenaline of vintage. So definitely my least favorite job is admin. I'm really bad at it. So my overflowing inbox is definitely testament to that. So I would rather go and do anything in the vineyard or the winery than bloody emails. So yeah, so that's probably my least favorite job.
I love the whole thing. I love admin. Sorry. I love being out in the vineyards, and I think, yeah, sorry, but I love ironing as well, actually, Jen.
Ironing.
I love ironing. I even iron my socks, but don't tell anybody.
My children fight over doing the ironing.
But I
don't own an iron.
I know you don't own an iron. Every time I do my ironing, I think about you, Jen Pfeiffer. He doesn't even own an iron.
It's a waste of time.
But getting back to the serious question of what do I prefer most in the vineyard, basically I like all of it. I like everything. I didn't come from a vineyard or a vigneron background. I didn't come from a winemaking background, so it's all still relatively new. It's only been like 10 years. But what I absolutely love is that you see the whole product right from when you're pruning and when the grapes are growing through the whole growing season. You get the panic, you get the stress of like, is it going to hail? Are we doing all this work? Is there going to be any mildew? Is there going to be any wind? It's so stressful, but you've got all the farming aspect, and then you come through that, and then you've got the making the wine, the harvest. Just like, I love it. It's like I'm on a real high through all of that harvest. I just absolutely love it, and then just collapse in a heap like when it's over. But then the best bit, like you said, Jen, is when you actually get to taste it. So you're actually tasting your wine that you made. But even better than that is when the angels taste it, and then they tell you what they think about it. And it's just that whole circle is just, I don't know if there's another job like it, to be honest. It's just like, it's so satisfying to have the full circle right up to this is my bottle of wine on your table. It's yeah, that's what I like. And what I don't like, it's really hard pushed actually to find something that I don't like.
I think you're right. I think that's why it inspires all the passion in us, because it is something that, you know, you create and you work with nature to do that, and yet you also have your own little I guess, stamp on it. You know, if you and if the three of us all had the same grapes, we wouldn't make the same wine. And, you know, I think there's that opportunity for creativity.
But what would happen if we didn't have the same grapes? Would we make the most astounding wine ever?
Well, I'm looking forward to this.
On that thought, we'll pause just there. And we'll jump over to Ray and Ray's very popular Ray's Empty slot, where he'll give us a taste of what's new and exciting that he's been trying this week.
Okie dokie, thank you. So as a reminder, my job is... Sorry,
Ray, I'll just interrupt you there. Just while Ray is talking, if anyone wants to ask a question for the ladies after this, pop into the Q&A box down below, and I'll go through them. And as you were, Ray, apologies.
Okie dokie. So just to introduce myself, I'm Ray, and my job is to taste the wines that the guys have just made, and to find new winemakers, and maybe to discuss developing new wines with these beautiful winemakers. And so I'm at home like everybody, and so the samples are coming to my place. A lot of them, which I'm sure you'll imagine is a lot of fun, but one must remain focused and just sniff and spit and then move on to the next one. But we have some gems this week. We also had some not so gems, but we had plenty of good gems. And so many of you know Johann Kruger. These are just cloudy bottles of wine that I'm going to show you, because they are tank samples, meaning Johann and anyone else has put the blend together for a wine. And this is the Angels Selection 2020. So we're already looking at Southern Hemisphere, South African white wine. And okay, I'm showing you the really, really good ones. So everything I say is going to be, and it's bloody gorgeous. So I don't need to go forward, but this is a bloody gorgeous one, Johann Kruger. And it was he sent 3 different samples. So he does 3 different cuts. So as if you're in a music studio or an editorial suite and you go, maybe we do it like this, or maybe we make it look like this. And the first one, and I tasted it, I was like, it just went pow in the mouth. And it was just like, boom, juiciness and fruitiness. So that was a quick home run. Katie, there are...
Ray, what variety is it?
That is a blend. It's Colombar, Chardonnay, Sauvignon, and there may be a bit of Muscatel or something in there. So it's a blend. And it's just one of those fruit salad, ping, pow, pop sort of, it's summer drinking. So now, what are we now? End of May, you bottle it and it'll be here, that wine will be here end of July. And I think it's normally $7.99. So it's a summer crusher. That's it. So it's Johann Kruger Angels Selection 2020. Then Katie Jones, home run, Bush. And well, I mean, you just send up some gold typically. And it was your rosé, which is always such a beautiful color. And I think, is it currently on sale, Katie, the 2019?
Yep, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's really, really smart. I think it has more pleasure, like more mouthfeel than Provence rosé. But it's in that pale color, and it's not tutti frutti. So it's that subtle, but it has this sort of like the thing that goes over the palate where you just like it layers about. That's beautiful. But I thought of you, I thought of this wine, Katie. You're me and Monsieur Jones read when you were talking about that full circle. So you're working the vines, and then you're making the vines, and then you're seeing it go out. And I could really genuinely, it might sound a bit soppy, but when I tasted that wine, was it yesterday we were talking? And it was like Lagar quality. It was you could tell the amount of winemaking, or the amount of quality and investment went into it. It was, it punched above its level, you know? So that was very smart. I want to tell angels who know, and so this is a mix of existing winemakers or maybe existing wines, and then there's some new wines from existing winemakers. So Jorge in Spain, in Valencia, who makes Castillo de Catedral Gran Reserva, he wanted to show me this new red that he had proposed, and I haven't even put it through the rest of the Naked team, but it's just so smooth. It's a really soft but rich red wine, and a really fruity aromatic white. So that's sort of like a carrot, I would say, to anyone who's watching. So there may possibly be either a new white or a new red from Jorge, but I still need to sort of pitch it into the rest of the team. So bear with me on that. Eddie's Petit Paradis from Lebanon, that came through looking beautiful. And then just to wrap up, Eamon has been running this COVID support fund, which when I hand back, Eamon might just give extra context to that. But we tasted some, not all wine is as good as your wines, guys, ladies. Some winemakers are more fortunate with their location, geographic, so the climate and the vineyard and so on, and then also in their winemaking abilities. And so it isn't always a home run when you receive wines and you taste wines. And Eamon and I have, let's say, funneled quality from the wine world whilst trying to support winemakers who are in a difficult time. So Eamon, I was just pulling up this Chateau Le Grand Vertu, that Bordeaux we tasted. Yeah. That was pretty stonking the other day. I think we kind of like that Sancerre Rosé from the Buoys in Sancerre, and then that's about it. In the background are the wines, the also rans, and so we are what we're doing, and I'll hand it back to Eamon now. But it's our role to make sure that what you do trust us to do, which is selecting the best wine for you guys, is happening. So we screen it and then we select the best. That's it. Amo, back to you, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, Ray. Another corker. So yeah, let's jump into some questions from Angels watching. So lots of good ones here. Let's start with this one from Megan. How common is it for winemakers to be female? Traditionally, it was already male sport, but how are women doing it in getting places in larger or prestigious vineyards? Who wants to go that one?
There's no other female winemakers in my village.
Oh.
My local scale. But having said that, I don't know the precise answer. I don't know if the other girls know, Jen or Claudia, the actual precise answer. But for me, it doesn't matter, to be honest. Whether it's never, for me, something that I take into consideration that I'm a woman making wine. I never think, I'm a woman making wine. I just think I'm Katie Jones making wine, and I do it with Monsieur Jones. And it's, for me, it's not, even though we made it better, it's not something that I take into into consideration myself. But I don't know, do either of you have sort of know any statistics on women winemakers?
I would say in Australia today, about 50% of winemaking graduates are women. So that we've come a long way in Australia, say from the 70s when my dad was beginning his career, when there was probably less than 5 women winemakers in the country. And I think those ladies are amazing, and they paved the way for people like me. But I'm with you, Katie. I don't feel like I'm a woman winemaker. I just feel like I'm a winemaker, and I want to be recognised as a winemaker, as opposed to a woman winemaker. But so for me, I don't think I've had any roadblocks in my career being a woman. And I think in Australia we're really supportive and encouraging of gender diversity in our industry today.
I think it's changed quite a lot. I remember 20 years ago when I was working in vineyards in Australia for a big corporate, and we had this big A4 phone list. So it was all the contacts for all the vineyards around Australia. And it was like little print. There were only 2 female names on that entire list, which, but that was 20 years ago and things have changed. And definitely here, it's a pretty 50-50 split. But I do think that, age-old problem, trying to balance, family and work and winemaking and viticulture work. You've got times when you're really, really, really busy, and then you've got times where you're not as busy, but it's not spread out evenly. It's very much peaks and troughs of workflow, and that's always tricky.
And Amy, just before you run on to the next question, we taste blind, we taste wines. We sometimes taste them blind enough, but you're just rating the wine and you're just evaluating the quality. And then in a certain context, what would this mean to angels? And it doesn't mean, there's just no place for male or female consideration. It has never crossed our minds, has it? No.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Question from our old friend Seb. Hey, Seb.
Oh, Seb.
Hey.
Toosday.
And a great question, no surprise. If you could make wine anywhere in the world using any type of grape, where would you go and why?
This is one of our questions we were talking about.
Go for it, Claudia. You go first.
Yeah.
I've got my answer ready, but
Sound
you go.
prepared.
Oh, no, you go first, Katie. I'm going to have to think.
Have you forgotten what you're meant to be saying? Okay, I'm going. I know where I go. I know I would go to Wales. Definitely. My dream would be to have a little tiny vineyard in Wales, because I don't know much about grape growing up there. I know it must be really challenging and really difficult, and complete contrast to what we're doing down here. So they probably have problems with like too much acidity, whereas we have the opposite problems. But I think it'd be really challenging, and I'd love to get Monsieur Jones to come with me and to have a couple of hectares in Wales, so that we could make really something quite special. I've got no idea what grape variety we would use. I would imagine that you have to have a very, very, it's quite a limited range, would it be, in Wales? But that would be my dream. I'd be in Wales.
What about you,
Great
Jen?
answer.
Easy for me. I would be in Portugal, in the Douro Valley. For those of you who don't know, Rutherglen, which is my home and my region, is the home of fortified wines in Australia, and we have a rich heritage in Australian terms, 150 plus years of winemaking in Rutherglen, and fortified wines are critical for that. So I've worked in Douro. I actually won a competition with Naked Australia for my winemaking fantasy in 2014, and I chose to work in the Douro Valley and make port wine and also red wine. And that without a doubt, the Douro is my spiritual home. I love the terrace vineyards. I love the history. I love the people. I love the soul in the wine. It's just so genuine and so real. And for me, it's just the most amazing place. So yeah, if I disappear from Rutherglen, you know where to find me.
Okay, so I would, if I was making wine anywhere else, I'd go back to Australia. I miss it. I would, yeah. I still feel a bit sad about it. So Bill's family are in Central Victoria, and I love Central Victorian Shiraz. And so that would be my pick. Central Victorian Shiraz. Mwah. Love it.
Would neither of you come to Tucson then?
So for a visit.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that little delay, that said it all, I think.
Yeah, I love this. Katie, the Welsh contingent in the comments are making themselves heard. They're all up for that idea.
Excellent. Naked over to you then.
Question here from Matt, probably for Jen. Are you tempted to make a smoky vintage, or tell us how that works? Obviously, with what you've been through.
Yeah, so unfortunately, this is not the first time we have had bushfires near our region and had smoke effect in our grapes. So in my career, the very first year that it happened was 2003. And as an industry and also as a person, we didn't have the knowledge that we have now about smoke taint. So in 2003, we bottled wine that subsequently we found out was smoke tainted. And the thing about smoke is it doesn't get better, it doesn't complex out over time. Those compounds stay in the wine, and in fact the smoke compounds, the glycosides, release out in wine through maturation, whether it be in barrel or bottle. So actually, when you see smoke taint in a young wine, it's only going to get worse as the wine matures. So the temptation is definitely not to make a smoke affected wine, because I think at the end of the day, you know, we're committed to quality, and we've got to make a decision based on quality, and knowing that you have smoke affected fruit is not, you know, and then choosing to make that into wine and bottling it is not the correct decision. So as heartbreaking as it is, to make those decisions in the vineyard, that's the right time to make it. So
yeah, great, thank you. Question for Claudia. How do you go about making your Sauvignons individual? Must be a challenge. And yeah, when you're starting out, how do you know what to accomplish when you're making a new one?
You mean, how can we make 6 different Sauvignons in one vintage? You know what? It's funny, because everyone thinks about Marlborough being like one big thing, but Marlborough's like lots of little sub-regions. So the winemaking changes a little bit between like the Yellow Cap and the Sylvia, but the biggest difference, the reason why these wines taste different, is where the fruit comes from. So the Sylvia is all from a southern valley, the Awatere. It's always from this one spot. It's literally 2 neighbours, and we can't make Sylvia if we're not in that particular part of Marama Road. The entry is more of a blend. So Bill always talks about like lo-fi and hi-fi. So with the Yellow Cap, we're wanting it to be like Marlborough, ping, 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 clean. So it's quite tight winemaking. Whereas with the Sylvia, the fruit's so good. It's so, honestly, fresh Sauvignon Blanc grapes. Mwah. So the fruit's so good that he can be a bit looser with the winemaking. So he uses like alternate yeasts, leaves it on leaves a bit more, ferments it a little warmer, that sort of stuff, because you can be a bit looser, and it makes it a more interesting wine than if you did that with fruit that wasn't quite up to it. So that's, yeah.
Cool, thank you. Question for Keith. It's great to have you all together. Answer question for any of you. Any plan to partner together like Ben and Rod?
Does it mean we get to go to Sean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, Keith. I think that's a fantastic question, and I'm open for any offers of anybody, absolutely anybody who wants to come and live in Touchant over the harvest and help me make a wine. But seriously, I think it could be really exciting, like with Claudia's experience in the vineyard and I know I have Monsieur Jones obviously in the vineyard, but my total lack of experience in the vineyard. Jen's amazing. Amazing. Actually, Jean-Marc could go over and help Bill perhaps during the harvest, and we could swap this. And Jen's amazing winemaking experience and knowledge, and she's already helped me a lot with little tips here and there. So yeah, for me, I would definitely, yeah, I'd be up for making a wine with either of you, whoever wants to do it, basically.
Same. I think, Katie, you have muscat and I have muscat, and they're not the same, but maybe there's scope to do something.
We could have the muscat competition. I'll make yours and you can make mine.
And just to get the aromatics right, we'll pinch a bit of sav from you, Claude.
Actually, we've got a bit of Gewürz scattered through our Pinot Noir vineyard. It's my favourite thing come sampling time, because fresh Gewürz, holy mackerel, is it good?
It is good eating, actually.
Yeah, good eating. It's my favourite, yeah, fresh fruit variety.
Very good. And when you're on the bus and on tour, what are the wines which are not from you three that you like to reach for when you're in the tasting room?
I answered last week, so it's over to you guys. I did give an answer last week, but I'm going to think of another wine. I've got a second chance, so while I think about it.
Do you know what? I always go for Jen's fortifieds just because we don't get them here, and I love Rutherglen fortified. So sorry, I'm not trying to be a total brown noser, but I do love your fortifieds, Jen.
Well, because of my love of the Douro, I'm always going to see those very charming folk. So, I love going and talking to Mario, who's just so warm and friendly and drinking his wine. And then, chatting to Oscar and having these competitions with Oscar, who's the best fortified maker, him or me. So, you know, I love that little repartee, and going and trying those wines. I think, you know, for me, it's not really one wine. It's a fantastic opportunity for us as winemakers to go into that room and actually have the amazing breadth of wine from all over the world, all in the one place, and to be able to try that and actually learn about different varieties and learn about, you know, talk to each other about how did you make this and what did you do with that. And it's actually really inspiring to see what everyone else is doing. So, you know, there's been some amazing wines from all over the world, and you know, it's year after year you sort of just go, wow, these wines are just getting better and better and better, you know. So
definitely
cool.
Definitely. And I think if I had to go for somebody, I do spend a lot of my tastings, you're like on your tables, but you tend to have the same neighbors a lot of the time. And I've got to know Dom Hentel really well and tasted his wines, and I'm fortunate enough to have him as my neighbor. So I would say anything basically from Dom, because they're just fantastic wines, and I'm very lucky to be next to him at the naked tastings.
Very good. He'll be loving that, but well deserved. Jeffrey Hardy, this is a great question. I love all your wines. What is it that each of you do that you think makes your wine so special? What's the magic dust?
She's a redhead.
I think for mine, well, Jen puts a hat back on, it would be
it's not that bad.
is my old vines, definitely. I think 80% of winemaking happens in the vineyards, and so if you have great fruit coming in, you can make, Claudia thinks it's higher than 80%, you can make really good wines. It really makes it so much easier. So I would say I have a majority of all old vines are up to, the average is like 60 years old, so they're producing really small yields, and those really small yields produce some excellent fruit, and hence an excellent wine as well. So that would be my special magic dust that I sprinkle in my wines.
Jean, what about you?
Sorry.
I thought you were going to go. So for me, you know, I agree with Katie. Fruit is absolutely the critical thing, and not that as winemakers, we want to take the easy option, but certainly the better the fruit, the easier our job is. And as Claude, you were saying with Bill, you know, being able to be a bit more loose with the Sylvia, you know, when the fruit's great, you know, you have more scope to do more things and push yourself and push the boundaries. So I agree 100% the fruit is really good. And I think all of our wines reflect the regions where we come from and the strengths of those regions. But I also think, you know, in this industry, dedication and passion and commitment are really important. You know, it's full on the wine industry, you know, as Claude, you said, you've got the peaks and the troughs of busyness. You know, you've got harvest, which is, we get one shot a year to make our wines, and you've got to give it everything, you know, you live, breathe, eat, sleep wine. And I think, you know, the best wines come from the people who have that commitment and have that passion. And thank God, as a redhead, I've got it.
It's interesting you talking about that, Jen, because we've got a friend where we always talk about those, you know, those little incremental things, like those things that, like if you just looked at one thing, wouldn't really matter, but all those little 0.5% and being careful and particular, that's when you get wine that will really, you know,
the detail.
Yeah, well, the detail, but also it'll be a particular wine to you. I don't want to drink a wine that tastes like Jen could make it. I want to drink a wine that tastes like only we can make it here, and to be really particular to the region. I think and the sub-region and that little bit of road that Sylvia comes from. I think that's what makes wine exciting, and that's why we want to drink such a wide variety of wines.
Is that terroir you're talking about?
I prefer not to use that word.
Okay.
Go on.
Yeah,
My Kiwi sensibilities. Yeah, no.
What else have we got here? Yeah, do you try and express your personality through your wines? Probably similar to what I've just asked there.
Not at all.
No. No personality.
Is Bill out of bed yet? Can you come and say hi, Claudia?
I'll go get him. He's probably wrangling children.
Can I go and get Mr. Jones as well? Because he might feel a bit left out.
Yes.
Please do, yeah. Jen, a question here. Which vintage do you dip your beanie in? Do you do this every year? Is this true?
Not a euphemism.
Look, I mean, the beanie is definitely, I was going to say giraffe, but I think maybe it's a little bit light for giraffe, but maybe it's a 2015 giraffe, you know, possibly. So it's got the colours faded over time. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Oh, hey, Bill.
I'm going well. How are you?
Hi, Katie and Ray and everybody else.
Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Come on. How
Hey, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones in the house.
Bonsoir.
Woo, la maison.
Caché sous le bureau.
Yeah, he's oh, actually, you're a lot lower down than Bill is. I wonder why that is.
Bill is like a foot taller than me.
And he's in the chair.
John Mark is actually a dwarf. We just never restarted it.
How's the tractor, Katie, or do we have to tune into tomorrow's Instagram Live to find out?
I could ask Jean-Marc, comment va le tracteur?
Mieux, ça va, merci.
Better.
C'est bien.
But tune in tomorrow morning.
He's not very young, but
That's
it's okay.
Angel exclusive news we got just there, so delighted with
Yeah, he wasn't meant to say that,
that.
Hey, Bill, how's the new blends looking? 2020 Sauvignons.
Ace, really good. Has Claudia mentioned anything at all about it? I mean, they're all in the winery and they're all locked down, but yeah, no, we had a great vintage and yeah, they're as good as they look for quite a few years, I think. So people should be pretty excited about them, I think.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, there's plenty of demand this side, Bill, so no pressure to get it right.
No. I think the thing for us is just trying to get them from where we are now over to you guys as soon as we can while still keeping them looking good. So we're
so I think roughly speaking, they might land with us September, October.
Yeah.
And everyone working hard in the background, but that's just the journey time and everything. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, nice one. Can't wait.
Yeah. We were lucky we had a very good vintage apart from the obvious
Global crisis.
indeed, yeah, which we weren't quite expecting. Anyway, yeah.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, we're just about out of time now, so thank you so much for joining us tonight from all hours of the clock. And that is Penelope. Sylvia. Silly me. How could I? But thank you so much for joining us tonight. Lots of great comments from people, and really enjoyed it. And thanks for doing everything you do, and you keep making it. We'll keep drinking it. And it's been a great evening, and all the best, and we'll see you soon.
Keep rocking it. Cheers, everybody.
Bye. Cheers.